Hello and welcome back to another Monster Monday, a series where I draw a creature from D&D and I talk about its lore and its history and what it's like to fight in-game as well. Two things before we get started. I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you for being extremely patient with me. It's been a while since I posted my last video, a lot longer than I was actually expecting. I took some time off because COVID stuff and, all the stress that brings with it. But also, in the middle of this, quite unexpectedly, I started moving house. And that's meant that I've not had internet connection for a very long time. In fact, I actually have very sort of sparing amounts of internet, I guess. So this intro, for example, is still filmed where I used to now live, I guess. But all things being well, this should be the return to a regular upload schedule, so I should be back with you every single Monday. Either way, I just wanted to say thank you for being very patient and very kind with me while I've been making this content for you, and while you've not heard very much from me. And secondly, for those of you who are watching perhaps your first Monster Monday, I thought I'd outline what this kind of video series is. As I said earlier, this is a series where I draw a creature from D&D and I talk about its lore and its mythology and its history and what it's like to fight in game as well. But added on top of that is the fact that I use your suggestions, the monsters that you'd like to see me draw or hear me talk about, whatever. And today's video is absolutely no different. Today we're going to be covering Modrons, who were first suggested by Indefinitely Indigo in the YouTube comments. So thank you very much for your suggestion, Indefinitely Indigo. And the way this works is I take every single one of your suggestions for a monster that you'd like to see me draw, no matter how obscure or popular. I tally up however many times that monster comes up, how many times it's suggested by various people, and keep a record of them on my to-draw list, which every single month I hand to my patrons over on Patreon, who get to vote on the order in which we see these guys. So if you have a monster you'd like to see me draw, make sure to leave that down in the comment section while you're watching this. And if you want to have control over the types of videos that you see from me, and you want to hand pick which monsters I draw based on your suggestions, then I'll leave a link to my Patreon down in the description box as well. So if you want to help me make these videos and get an extra bit of control over the content that you see from me, then I hope you'll head over there and join our little community. But I've whittled on for long enough. Let's get started with today's topic of Modrons. Now, I have to be upfront before we start because personally, and this is just my preference, because I know a lot of people feel very differently about this. I mean, you guys voted for this, and then my patrons voted on a poll for this to come up very quickly, so I know you guys feel very strongly about Modrons, but personally, I cannot stand them. Or, I suppose what I should say is, I absolutely despise how they are depicted, how they're illustrated, and what they traditionally look like. When they were first introduced in first edition, these creatures were drawn as simple shapes, with long, fleshy limbs, and were supposedly inspired by Edwin Abbott's Flatland book, a story published in 1884, which describes a two-dimensional character's journey into the three-dimensional space as a means of explaining dimensionality to students who hope to mathematically explore higher dimensions. In the story, a flat plane with no height whatsoever, whose inhabitants are simple shapes, are visited by a three-dimensional sphere, who shows a flat square, our third dimension, and opens its mind to the world beyond its understanding, and by extension implies the same for us in our comfortable three dimensions, and a fourth being time, and hopefully allows people to think outside the box and explore the idea that fourth and fifth and sixth and so on dimensions could be affecting our world without our visual perception of that. Since then, this humble inspiration has grown. The peculiar shapes of these creatures saw them become more mechanically designed. Their home dimension became the plane of Mechanus, a reality of pure law and order and of mechanical efficiency and routine. For some reason, a decision was made artistically to make these creatures, despite their ordered and logical reality, look somehow comical and a bit quirky. And as a result, over time, Modrons have basically become a kind of steampunk version of the minions from Despicable Me, much to the delight of middle-aged mums on Facebook, desperately grappling with the concept of memes throughout the world. But that's a hopelessly negative outlook, and one that I hope to expunge from myself, because why should I gatekeep minions? Why should I gatekeep Modrons? Let's open the gates and let everybody in. So rather than complaining about what I do not like about these creatures, and letting my dislikes define me. I'm hoping that my research will help me find something to love about these little guys, and hopefully I can use those aspects to illustrate my version in a way that I would find more appealing, because let's be honest, we're not elves, our lives are short, far too short for negativity, so let's find the great parts of these creatures together. As I mentioned before, the Modrons hail from the plane of Mechanus, a great and enormous reality that functions somewhere between an unimaginably large metropolis-like city and a huge factory and assembly line. On this plane, law in all of its forms reigns supreme, as each planet-like nation takes the form of an infinite number of interlocking gears who house whole civilizations on both faces of each moving platform. Each gear world makes up a small part of the enormous machine that is the home of Primus, the machine god of order, the creator of the Modron species. But I've described them like minions, so what even are Modrons? Well, generally speaking, Modrons are human-sized mechanical creatures who live to serve a series of functions and tasks whose number can never exceed the number of sides that they represent. This number of function builds up the Modron hierarchy, with the lowly monodrone, a spherical, winged creature at the bottom, who I'll attempt to illustrate today, who function as the lowest rung on their social structure, a creature capable of performing one task at any given time, all the way up to a pentadrone, a far larger, starfish-like creature with 5 faces, legs, and functions that it can perform at any given time. Although in the monster manual for 5th edition, you'll receive 5 types of Modron, including the 2-sided duodrone, the guardian-like pyramid-shaped tridrone, and so on. Other supplements and books in D&D's past have expanded on this hierarchy by including the very, very functionally named hierarchs, including the 10-sided decatons, the nonatons, the octons, and other beings whose names count down in scale until they reach Primus, one himself, the one true king of law and order. Modrons follow the rule of law, and perfectly, to the letter as well, living out the entirety of their immortal lives without ever really questioning their programming or position in society. They don't have dreams or hopes or aspirations for their futures, except for the aim to dutifully fulfill their programming tasks, which is reflected in their lawful neutral alignment, and a rule that all Modrons possess called axiomic mind, which states that no Modron can be compelled to act in a manner contrary to its nature or instructions. But despite this rigidity, Modrons can rise in the ranks of their society and evolve to gain more sides and thus more functions. When a Modron of any rank dies somehow, despite their immortal lives, it disintegrates into a cloud of vaporized base elements, leaving behind only its weapons or anything else it was carrying, while its base materials drift back in an electrified smoky plume back to the plane of Mechanus, instantly being teleported there, then be recycled into the production of yet more Modrons. And this process is constantly occurring. The forges and factories of creation at the heart of Mechanus are constantly unboxing freshly mass-produced Modrons to replace those who die in a conveyor belt style that stretches out as far as any eye could see. There is a finite amount of Modron material that is always recycled and reused, making Mechanus the only zero-waste reality. Just like on our plane, energy cannot be destroyed, only moved, Modrons cannot be truly destroyed. The vacuum formed by a dead Modron of any rank is then instantly filled by the earliest created Modron of the rank below, who, in a flash of very, very functional light, is reassembled and reprogrammed to become the missing member of the new rank. This causes a chain reaction, carrying down the ranks until a new Modron is created to fill the void left behind by the lowest rank's ascension. Even Primus is not immune to the nature of this reality. If Primus, or rather I should say a Primus, is ever killed, which despite its divine status as a god can indeed occur, the earliest created Tertian, that's a two-sided hierarch, transforms instantly into a new Primus, essentially making the whole plane of Mechanus the god of law and order itself, and Primus just the commander of it. So there you go. That's the fascination. That's the interest of these creatures. Their whole reality. They are made of their reality. They are a part of it. Their reality is a god, which is a fantastic, fantastic idea. Now, in terms of their aesthetic, I decided to shy away from the minion thing that I don't like and decided to go for something that I preferred instead. And I'm reminded of a quote whose origins I can't actually remember. I know it definitely featured in the Thor movie. I feel like it's been said before that. Either way, if you know what I'm talking about, please make sure to let me know down in the comments section so I can alleviate my mind. But any technology that is sufficiently advanced will be considered magic by those who don't understand it. And that to me is what a modron can represent, rather than the kind of steampunk technology that I guess the members of a fantasy society might be able to wrap their minds around. I really wanted to go extremely sci-fi with these creatures, such that the creatures of the plane of Mechanus would seem magical in nature, but are in fact just high sci-fi technology. Drones, literally. Maybe the dust they scatter to are nanites. Teleportation technology takes them back to their own plane. All of this kind of stuff. So I went wildly technological with these things, which may not be to everybody's tastes. I know some people vehemently despise the idea of sci-fi in their fantasy campaigns, and I totally understand that. As I say, this isn't the definitive modron, this is just my preference for a modron. Modrons have various different attacks. Modrons, the creatures that I'm drawing here, have a kind of short sword or dagger attack, so I decided to make a dagger that looks like a little Bunsen burner. And I initially drew these creatures with some kind of like turbine-like jet-propelled wings, as Modrons are supposed to be winged creatures, but I thought maybe it would be a good idea instead to just allow for these limbs that they have kind of floating around, a bit like Rayman, to be able to be repurposed, a multifunctional tool. It's more elegant, and maybe that's the thing I'm searching for here with a monodrone. The idea that technology, when engineered correctly, should be elegant rather than haphazard, which I feel is represented in the kind of more comical version in the monster manual, which again is totally fine. But my preference for a society built on law and order is that elegance should be key. So if you enjoyed my version of a modron here and you liked today's video, please make sure to leave it a like down below, perhaps favourite this video and share it with the rest of your D&D party or your DM to give them a bit of inspiration the next time they use modrons. Anything that you can do like that really, really helps this channel to grow, something which I deeply aspire to. I would love for this channel to grow in size and for more people to hear about it. I love the community that we have here. You guys are absolutely wonderful and very communicative, and I would just like to hear from more people. So if you can spread the word, any communities you might be a part of, that'd be absolutely fantastic and a great way to show that you're enjoying the content here. As well, all of your likes and favourites and so on let YouTube know that I'm doing a good job. So if you'd like YouTube to know that I deserve to be here, then I very much appreciate your likes. Thank you very, very much. So until next time, remember, if you have a monster suggestion that you'd like to see me draw, make sure to leave that down in the comment section. Make sure to fulfill your functions dutifully for the glory of Primus, and happy monster hunting.